Welcome back to Important Updates, global news without the noise. Subscribe to stay updated. I bet you didn't know just how deep the legal storm surrounding Donald Trump really goes. Donald Trump's presidency was defined by controversy, and his post-presidency has been dominated by legal battles. Since leaving office in 2021, he's faced a historic array of criminal and civil cases. These cases span federal and state courts, with allegations ranging from mishandling classified documents to efforts to overturn the 2020 election. The legal stakes are enormous, not just for Trump, but for the country. The outcomes could set new precedents for how former presidents are treated under the law. Trump remains a central figure in American politics, making these cases even more consequential. This video will break down the major cases: the classified documents probe, the January 6th investigation, the Georgia election case, the New York hush money trial, the civil fraud lawsuit, and the E. Jean Carroll defamation suits. We'll focus on the facts, the key players, and what's at stake. Understanding these cases is crucial. They test the rule of law and the boundaries of presidential accountability. Each case is complex, with its own rules, timelines, and possible outcomes. The legal challenges Trump faces are unprecedented in American history. As these cases unfold, they're watched closely in the US and around the world. Let's untangle this legal web and examine what it means for Trump and for the nation. We begin with the federal investigation into classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. Here's what you need to know. The federal case over classified documents is one of Trump's most serious legal threats. Prosecutors allege he took hundreds of classified documents from the White House and stored them at Mar-a-Lago, including in unsecured locations like a ballroom and a bathroom. The indictment, led by special counsel Jack Smith, charges Trump with willful retention of national defense information, obstruction of justice, and making false statements. Two aides, Walt Nauta and Carlos de Oliveira, are also charged with helping hide documents from investigators. Prosecutors say Trump's actions posed a grave risk to national security. Trump's defense argues he had the authority to declassify documents and claims the case is politically motivated. Prosecutors counter that the law focuses on unauthorized possession, not classification status. The case is set for trial in federal court in Florida. It's a major test of how the law applies to former presidents and the handling of government secrets. Trump and his co-defendants have pleaded not guilty. The outcome could have far-reaching implications for presidential power and national security. Next, we look at how this investigation began. The classified documents probe began when the National Archives discovered missing Trump administration records in 2021. After months of requests, Trump's team returned 15 boxes in early 2022, containing over 180 classified documents. This discovery triggered a Department of Justice investigation. The FBI suspected more documents remained at Mar-a-Lago and issued a subpoena. Trump's lawyers turned over a few more documents and certified that all had been returned, but evidence suggested otherwise, leading to an unprecedented FBI search of Mar-a-Lago in August 2022. Agents found over 100 additional classified documents, some in Trump's office and others in a storage room. The fact that these were found after a sworn certification became key evidence of possible obstruction. The search and its findings formed the backbone of the federal indictment. The case highlights the tension between presidential privilege and the law. It also set the stage for Trump's mounting legal troubles. Now, let's turn to the events of January 6th. Special counsel Jack Smith's second major case targets Trump's actions after the 2020 election. Trump is charged with conspiracy to defraud the United States, obstruction of an official proceeding, and conspiracy against rights. Prosecutors allege he knowingly spread false claims of election fraud and pressured officials to overturn the results. The indictment details efforts to organize fake electors and pressure Vice President Mike Pence to reject legitimate electoral votes. On January 6th, Trump told supporters to fight like hell and march to the Capitol, knowing some were angry and armed. While not charged with inciting the riot, prosecutors argue the attack was the foreseeable result of his actions. Trump's defense centers on free speech, claiming he was entitled to challenge the results. The legal battle hinges on whether Trump knew his fraud claims were false. The case is delayed by arguments over presidential immunity. The outcome could redefine the limits of presidential power and accountability. This case is a pivotal test of American democracy. Next, we examine the Georgia election case. The stakes are high, not just for Trump, but for the rule of law. The legal and political consequences are enormous. Let's look at what happened in Georgia. In Georgia, Trump faces state charges under the RICO Act, typically used for organized crime. Prosecutors allege Trump and 18 co-defendants conspired to overturn the 2020 election results. The centerpiece is a recorded call where Trump urged Georgia's Secretary of State to find enough votes to change the outcome. The indictment also details fake electors, harassment of election workers, and attempts to pressure officials. Several co-defendants, including former Trump lawyers, have pleaded guilty and agreed to cooperate. Trump has pleaded not guilty, calling the case politically motivated. His legal team tried and failed to move the case to federal court. The Georgia case is significant. As a state prosecution, it's immune to a presidential pardon. The outcome could have lasting implications for election law and presidential accountability. The legal battle continues, with the nation watching closely. Now, let's turn to the New York hush money case. The first criminal indictment against Trump came from Manhattan, charging him with 34 felony counts of falsifying business records. The case centers on a $130,000 hush money payment to Stormy Daniels before the 2016 election. Prosecutors allege Trump's company disguised reimbursements to Michael Cohen as legal fees to hide the payment's true purpose. The theory: this was an illegal campaign contribution, concealed to protect Trump's campaign. Elevating the charges to felonies requires proving intent to commit or conceal another crime. Trump's defense argues the payments were legitimate legal fees and attacks the credibility of Michael Cohen, the prosecution's key witness. Trump denies the affair and any wrongdoing, calling the case a witch hunt. This is the first criminal trial of a former U.S. president. The trial began in April 2024, drawing national attention. The outcome could set a precedent for how campaign finance laws are enforced. The case is a landmark moment in American legal and political history. Next, we look at the civil lawsuits brought by E. Jean Carroll. These cases have already delivered major verdicts. Trump has faced two high-profile civil lawsuits from writer E. Jean Carroll, who accused him of sexual assault and defamation. Carroll's first lawsuit, filed in 2019, was delayed for years. A second suit, under New York's Adult Survivors Act, included claims of battery and defamation. In 2023, a jury found Trump liable for sexually abusing and defaming Carroll, awarding her $5 million. The verdict marked the first time Trump was held legally responsible for sexual assault. A second trial in 2024 focused on damages for the original defamation claim. The jury ordered Trump to pay an additional $83.3 million, including punitive damages for his continued attacks on Carroll. Trump is appealing both verdicts. These cases have had a significant financial and reputational impact. They also set a precedent for holding public figures accountable for defamation and sexual misconduct. The legal battles have kept Trump in the headlines and fueled political debate. The outcomes highlight the power of civil litigation in shaping public accountability. Next, we turn to the New York civil fraud case targeting Trump's business empire. Here's what happened. New York Attorney General Letitia James sued Trump, his adult sons, and the Trump Organization for years of financial fraud. The lawsuit alleged they inflated asset values to secure better loans and insurance. Judge Arthur Engoron found Trump and his company liable for persistent fraud before the trial even began. The trial focused on the extent of the fraud and penalties. In February 2024, the judge ordered Trump to pay roughly $355 million plus interest and barred him from running any New York corporation for 3 years. His sons received 2-year bans. An independent monitor was installed to oversee the company's finances. The ruling is a severe blow to Trump's business empire and personal brand. Trump is appealing, but the penalties threaten his financial future in New York. The case underscores the power of state law to hold business leaders accountable. It also highlights the intersection of legal and financial risk for public figures. The legal fallout continues to unfold. Finally, let's look at the big picture. No former president has faced a legal onslaught like Donald Trump. 4 criminal indictments, multiple civil verdicts, and hundreds of millions in penalties have reshaped his legacy. The criminal cases carry the risk of prison time and set new standards for presidential accountability. The civil cases have already delivered historic financial and reputational blows. These legal battles test the principle that no one is above the law, not even a former president. Trials, appeals, and political fallout will continue for years. The outcomes will shape not just Trump's future but the future of the American presidency. The world is watching as the U.S. navigates this unprecedented legal and political storm. The stakes are enormous for democracy, the rule of law, and the nation's political landscape. As the saga continues, one thing is clear: the Trump legal era is far from over. The consequences will echo for generations. Stay tuned as history unfolds. Thank you for watching.